There seems to be more trouble for Nigeria popular cross-dresser Idris Okuneye aka Bobrisky as the federal government, FG investigative panel set up by the Ministry of Interior says there were backdated documents of his transfer from one correctional center to another, and there was concern for possible act of corruption among prison officials following the kind of preferential or special treatment given to the cross-dresser. This appeared to be against the widely circulated media reports on Monday by some media houses which apparently to have wrongly or underreported the findings of the FG panel. The federal government investigative panel did not dismiss the allegation that Bobrisky served his jail term outside the prison wall. The panel only said there was no evidence to back the claim, as it is yet to complete the investigation which it promised to embark on its second phase next year. But a careful study of the panel preliminary findings suggests Bobrisky apparently served his jail term outside the prison wall because, according to the FG panel, prison officials were found wanting of falsifying and backdating documents of Bobrisky transfer from one correctional center to another. The Ministry of Interior in a press release on Monday clarifies the findings of the investigative panel, with the Minister of Interior assuring the public to make officials involved to face disciplinary action. Nigeria Immigration Service, NIS, had stated in a press release on Monday that its men arrested Bobrisky while trying to flee the country at Seme border. NIS statement reads, and in quote, "In keeping with its commitment to securing the borders, Nigeria Immigration Service, NIS, intercepted Okuneye Idris Okuneye, otherwise known as Bobrisky, at the Seme border over an attempt to exit the country. The service wishes to inform the public that Okuneye Idris is a person of interest over recent issues of public concern. He is undergoing interrogation and will be handed over to the appropriate authorities for further action. The service assures the public that it will continue to be civil and professional in its statutory responsibility of manning the country's borders." DCIKT Udo, Nigeria Immigration Service Public Relations Officer, stated in the statement. There were media reports on Monday that the federal government's investigative panel has cleared popular cross-dresser Idris Okuneye, also known as Bobrisky, of allegations that she evaded her jail term. Bobrisky purportedly claimed in the audio that his sentence was cushioned by high-level officials, including the Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service, Haliru Nababa, allowing him to serve time in a private residence rather than in prison. The panel's report, released on Monday, October 21st, confirmed that there was no evidence to support claims that Bobrisky spent part of her 6-month prison sentence outside Kirikiri Correctional Center, according to the media reports. Bobrisky had been sentenced on April 12, 2024, for naira mutilation and released on August 5, 2024. The investigation followed allegations from activist Veridakman, who accused Bobrisky of spending her sentence in a lodge rather than at the Kirikiri facility, citing influence from a powerful godfather. Veridakman also released an audio recording in which Bobrisky allegedly claimed to have bribed Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) officials with 15 million naira to drop money laundering charges. In response, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, ordered a probe into the claims. On September 30th, he established an investigative panel chaired by Magdalena Ajani, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, to investigate corruption and misconduct within the Nigerian Correctional Service. The Ministry of Interior, in a press release on Monday titled, "FG unveils phase 1 report on correctional system reforms," stated in quote thus: "The public presentation of the phase 1 report of the Independent Investigative Panel on alleged corruption, abuse of power, torture, cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment within the Nigerian Correctional Service (NCOS), held on Monday the 21st of October 2024 at Honorable Ministers Conference Hall, Abuja." In his remarks at the unveiling of the phase 1 report, the Honorable Minister, Honorable Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, commended the panel for its thorough and diligent work, which began 3 weeks ago with a commitment to transparency and institutional reform. He reiterated the ministry's stance on zero tolerance for corruption, abuse of power, and any form of human rights violations, stressing that the investigation is part of a broader effort to build a transformative correctional service. The Nigerian Correctional Service is a key institution within our justice system and national security architecture, and we will not condone any form of cruelty, inhuman treatment, or malfeasance, the minister stated. Dr. Tunji Ojo assured that officers found culpable would face appropriate disciplinary actions and that this initiative marked the beginning of a comprehensive reform to create a rehabilitative and corrective correctional service. We have a duty to ensure that our correctional institutions are places of rehabilitation and not of suffering. This report is a first step in a long journey to restore integrity and human rights in our correctional system. We will not tolerate any form of misconduct or abuse within our custodial facilities, he reiterated. In the same vein, Chairman of the Committee and Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, Dr. Magdalene Ajani, reaffirmed the ministry's commitment to ensuring accountability and transparency throughout the reform process, noting that this first phase of the report serves as a foundational step towards achieving best practices in line with international standards for correctional services. The report findings, presented by the Secretary of the Investigative Panel, Dr. Uju Agomo, highlighted several critical issues uncovered during the phase 1 of the investigation. The committee investigated allegations regarding the treatment and privileges granted to Idris Okuneye, popularly known as Bobrisky, during his recent incarceration. The panel did not find any evidence that suggested that he slept outside the custodial center during the period of his imprisonment. The panel also noted that there were irregularities in his transfers between custodial centers, including backdated documentation. Additionally, Okuneye enjoyed privileges such as a furnished single cell, frequent visits, and access to amenities, raising concerns about possible preferential treatment and corruption. On the allegation of financial misconduct involving the family of a former chairperson of the defunct Pension Reform Task Team, Abdulrashid Minor, the committee confirmed that funds were transferred to the personal account of the officer in charge at Kuje Custodial Center, Deputy Controller of Corrections Kelvin Ikechukwu, by Minor's son, allegedly for the welfare of the inmate. This action was deemed unethical and a violation of the regulations governing correctional officers. The report also highlighted systemic issues, including widespread allegations of corruption, indiscipline, human rights violations, and poor welfare conditions for both inmates and correctional staff. The panel noted that these issues were exacerbated by the underfunding of the Nigerian Correctional Service and the poor working conditions of its officers. The committee further recommended urgent reforms, including clear operational guidelines, improved training for custodial officers, and measures to eliminate discriminatory practices based on inmates' socioeconomic status. It announced that the next phase of its work would involve broader investigations, public hearings, and the solicitation of memoranda from stakeholders to ensure transparency and public involvement in the reform process. The first two reports will be presented within the next year, with a focus on addressing systemic challenges and implementing sustainable reforms. Ozoya Imohimi, Director of Press and Public Relations Department, Ministry of Interior, stated in the statement.
On behalf of the committee, we hereby present the report on phase 1 of the Investigative Panel on Nigerian Correctional Services. Thank you, sir. Three copies, right? Thank you. Thank you, sir. I want you to tell us his condition when he was here. Here's the first phase report of the Independent Investigative Panel on the alleged corruption, abuse of power, torture,
cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment against the Nigerian Correctional Service, which is being submitted today to the Honorable Minister of Interior, Honorable Dr. Olubimi Tunji Ojo. The executive summary. This interim report, which is the phase 1 report of the panel, focuses on the findings in relation to the investigation into specific cases, namely Mr. Idris Okuneye, widely known as Bobrisky, and to verify if he served his sentence in the Nigerian Correctional Service custodial centers, and to ascertain the veracity of the claim that an inmate in Kuje Custodial Center was intimidated, threatened, and defrauded by the officer in charge. It also highlighted other alleged violations by correctional officers which require further investigation as well as effective solutions. The finding of the panel thus far shows the following. 1. The panel did not find any evidence thus far that suggested that Mr. Idris Okuneye slept outside the custodial center during the period of his imprisonment, which was from 12th April 2024 to the 5th August 2024, with his 6 months correctional sentence with the usual remission applicable. During this period, he was transferred from the Ikoyi Custodial Center to Medium Security Custodial Center, Kirikiri, Apapa, Lagos, and that was on the 12th of April. On the 22nd of April 2024, he was transferred from Medium Security Custodial Center, Kirikiri, to the Maximum Security Custodial Center, from where he was discharged after completion of his sentence on the 5th of August 2024. The State Controllers of Corrections have the power by law to transfer an inmate from one custodial center to another within the same state. Proper documentation of Okuneye Idris was not made prior or as he was being transferred from Ikoyi Custodial Center to Medium Custodial Center, Medium Security, and from the Medium Security Custodial Center, Kirikiri, to the Maximum Custodial Center, Kirikiri. The documents were later provided on the 28th of September 2024 and backdated to the 12th of April 2024 and 22nd April 2024 respectively. These are in violations of Section 168 and 169 of the Nigerian Correctional Service Standing Order Custodia. The transfer of Mr. Okuneye Idris from the Medium Security Kirikiri, Lagos to the Maximum Security Kirikiri, Lagos, being a first offender, violated Section 16.4a and Section 16.4b of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019. The panel also found that Mr. Okuneye Idris enjoyed several privileges while in custody, both at the Medium Security and the Maximum Security Custodial Centers, which include especially the following: furnished single cells, humidifier, lots of visits by his family members and friends as he desired, visit by his family members and friends held inside the office of the in charge of the custodial center, floor rug, self-feeding, designated inmate to run errands for him, access to fridge and television, and possibly access to his phone. It is necessary to further investigate if the above privileges provided for Okuneye Idris were financially motivated and based on corrupt practices by correctional officers. The panel believes that the peculiar case of the inmates and the inmate's physical look and behavior pose a threat, and the lack of laid down rules for the treatment of such a case may have necessitated such privileges to be granted to Okuneye Idris. On the issue of Abdul Rashid Minor's son sending money to the personal account of the Kuje Custodial Center deputy in charge, who is the Deputy Controller of Corrections, Kevin Ilafosi Ikechukwu, this was found to be true, the panel is of the view that DCC Kevin Ilafonsi Ikechukwu acted unethically and brought himself and the Nigerian Correctional Service to great disrepute by requesting and receiving money into his personal account from Abdulrashid Maina's son.
For us, we have nothing to hide, and for us, it's about reform and it's about cleaning the process and making sure that we build strong institutions, and we build institutions that will uplift each and every one of us. The Nigerian Correctional Service is a key institution within our justice system. And within even the national security architecture, the Nigerian Correctional Service is a very, very key institution. And therefore, any form of corruption, any form of malfeasance, any form of abuse of power, torture, cruelty, inhumane and degrading treatment will never be accepted. So for us, we have started the journey. Whoever the officer might be, I don't care where he's from, if we found wanting, according to this report, will pass through the necessary disciplinary process of the board, and we will make sure that those officers, their actions are met with the sort of sanctions and discipline that the law demands.
Sazuwa Radio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.